The Statue of Liberty. We'll be cruising down the Hudson River once again. Across the Hudson River is New Jersey, West New York, New Jersey. You'll see a bridge to the right here, further up the Hudson. That is the George Washington Bridge. It was built in 1931, the longest suspension bridge back then. Now it is the busiest suspension bridge in the world, with some 110 million vehicles passing through it every year. 110 million vehicles passing across the Hudson River every year. And to your left, down the Hudson River, you'll see another bridge. That is the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. When it opened in 1964, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world back then. This bridge is longer than the Golden Gate Bridge. It links Brooklyn to Staten Island. You'll see the skyline of downtown Manhattan from here. Hovering high is the World Trade Center Tower number 1. 1,776 feet tall, the tallest building, the tallest structure in the Western Hemisphere. From here, you'll see a lot of wooden water towers on top of New York City buildings. All of our buildings 7 stories and higher will have a water tower on top because the pressure from the water main will not go beyond 6 stories. Most of our water towers are made of wood because wood is a great insulator. It expands when wet. It keeps the water cool during the summer, slower to freeze in the winter. 19th century technology still being used in the 21st century New York. We're cruising down the Hudson River. This river was named after the British explorer Henry Hudson. He navigated these waters in 1609. He was looking for the Northwest Passage to Asia from the Americas, the shortest route to the wealth, riches of the Orient. He thought this river will bring him to Asia. He navigated it 105 miles up north. It only brought him to Albany, not to Asia, but on his return he introduced this place not to the British, although he was a British subject. He introduced it to the Dutch because he was working for the Dutch East India Company back then. And the Dutch, they established trading posts all over here, all the way to Connecticut. They named the whole territory New Netherlands. They established a trading post here in the island of Manhattan. Fort Amsterdam, it grew into a settlement, New Amsterdam. That was the former name of New York under the Dutch, New Amsterdam. Manhattan, the name comes from the Native American word Manhattan. The Native Americans used to call this island Manhattan, which means land of rolling hills, island of many hills. You won't see hills right now in Manhattan or Midtown and downtown Manhattan because the early settlers, they ahead is a concrete jungle of 600 skyscrapers, buildings beyond 330 feet in height, beyond 100 meters. So it's a concrete jungle out there. If you want to see what's left of the rolling hills of Manhattan, you have to go further uptown. Columbia University at Morningside Heights, you go down the Manhattan Valley to Harlem, you go up Sugar Hill and up Hamilton Heights. You'll see the rolling hills of Manhattan from there. The Dutch, 2 years after establishing a trading post, they bought the whole island of Mannahatta, the legendary price of $24 or 60 guilders, the best real estate deal of all time. What they were actually buying was 14,000 acres of hills. When the British came, one of the first things they did was survey the whole island of Mannahatta, and they counted 573 hills. And so the Native Americans gave it an appropriate name, the land of rolling hills, Mannahatta. Once again, you couldn't help but recognize the odd-shaped building at Tribeca, the Jenga building. After West New York, New Jersey was Weehawken, New Jersey. Now we are here at Hoboken, New Jersey. And this ferry terminal to the right, this ferry to train transfer station, the Erie-Lackawanna Hoboken Terminal. This was built in 1909. A ferry to train transfer station. It is said that the word hobo came from this station. Hobos back then were migrant workers who rode trains without paying their fare. And they said a lot of them came from this terminal, Hoboken. Jersey City, up ahead. The best place to see the skyline of downtown Manhattan. And to the left here is the skyline of Midtown Manhattan. Jersey City is one of the most diverse cities in the U.S. It has an India Square. 11% of Jersey City residents are Asian Indians, the largest concentration of Asian Indians in the Western Hemisphere here at Jersey City. 7% of Jersey City residents are Filipinos. 6.6% are Italians. 5.6% are Irish. 3% are Polish, 2.8% are Arab Americans, 2.7% Germans. African Americans make up 25% of Jersey City residents, and the largest ethnic group in Jersey City are the Hispanics, 27%. But Jersey City is not as diverse as New York City. 8.5 million people in New York City in the 5 boroughs. 37% of New Yorkers are foreign-born. They're immigrants. That is 3 million of 8.5 million people born outside of the U.S. New Yorkers come from more than 190 nations. They speak some 800 languages. The largest concentration of Chinese outside of Asia could be found here in New York City. Some 650,000 Chinese in New York City alone, 850,000 in the greater New York City area. The largest concentration of African Americans of any city could be found in New York City. 1 in 4 New Yorkers is an African American. The largest concentration of Puerto Ricans outside of Puerto Rico could be found here. 11% or 55% of Bronx residents are Spanish-speaking New Yorkers. The most ethnically diverse county or urban center in the world is Queens. The largest concentration of Jewish people outside of Israel is here in New York City. 13.5% of New Yorkers are Jewish. The largest concentration of Andean peoples outside of the Andes, people from Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, could be found in Queens. And so is the largest concentration of Tibetans outside of China, India, and Nepal. The World Trade Center, folks. Notice there's a building beside it under construction. That is the building number 3. World Trade Center building number 3. Beside building number 3 is building number 4, already complete. On the other side of tower number 1 is building number 7. 7 World Trade Center buildings will be built there because 7 World Trade Center buildings fell as a result of the September 11 attacks. Notice there's a space between tower number 1 and building number 3. That is where the Twin Towers used to be. Below are 2 memorial pools where those who died during the September 11 attacks are honored. And these developments to the right here at Jersey City, beautifully designed to look like ferries, ships, cruise liners. You can visit Jersey City, do your shopping in Jersey City like some New Yorkers secretly do, because the sales tax in Jersey City 3.5%. Compare that to the sales tax in New York, which is 8.875. Big difference. There used to be, or this large building here at Jersey City, the largest building in all of New Jersey. This is the Goldman Sachs Tower Jersey City office. There used to be a Colgate-Palmolive factory there. Colgate moved the factory to Indiana. At first they brought this large clock with them, which was on top of the factory. But New Yorkers demanded that they return the clock because New Yorkers need constant reminding of the time to brush their teeth. So that's the famous Colgate clock here in Jersey City. Coming up is Jersey City Liberty State Park. That's Liberty Landing, a marina for yachts. But here in the New York Harbor, you'll see a dark blue and white yacht, one of the largest private yachts in the world. It is owned by a Russian-American oil magnate. It's been here for a week already. Couldn't fit in our marina. Here at New Jersey, this is the Central Railroad Terminal of New Jersey. Just like the Erie-Lackawanna Hoboken Terminal, it is a ferry-to-train transfer station. Unlike the Erie-Lackawanna Hoboken Terminal, there are no trains that pass through this station, and yet it is still standing because it is listed in the Register of Historic Places in the U.S. It is landmarked to remind us that some 10.5 million immigrants rode ferries, transferred to trains, went to other parts of the U.S. The Irish went to to Boston, the Polish went to Chicago, Germans went to the Midwest, Scandinavians to farmlands, the Russians, the Italians went to other cities. We learned that 8 million immigrants passed through Battery Park at the southern tip of Manhattan. When that immigration station was closed, they opened another immigration station up ahead, the Ellis Island Immigration Station. From 1892 to 1954, some 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island. Ellis Island is no longer an immigration station, it is an immigration museum. Other museums, they simply display history. Ellis Island itself is history. Some 100 million Americans right now can trace their ancestry back to an immigrant who came through Ellis Island. And millions of them came from thousands of cities, towns, ghettos, villages looking for a better life. And they came to the U.S. and they made the U.S. a better place to live. It is said in the 1900s there were more Italians in New York City than in Rome, Naples, or Genoa, more Greeks in New York City than in Athens, more Irish in New York City than in Dublin, more Germans in New York City than in Bremen. New York City, back then and even until today, is the gateway to immigration here in the U.S. Since the 1600s, some 60 million people have immigrated to the U.S. In the past 20 years, 2/3 of the new immigrants to New York City come from Asia and Latin America. Their preferred borough of settlement is the County of Queens. The County of Queens, 2.3 million people, half are immigrants, foreign-born. Folks, look behind you, you'll see a great photo opportunity of the skyline of downtown, and you can also take the Empire State Building from here. Of course, take a picture of this beautiful French-inspired architecture, the Ellis Island Immigration Station. And speaking of France, the Statue of Liberty up ahead is a gift from the people of France to the people of the United States, intended as a gift to commemorate the 100th year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And it was placed here in the New York Harbor as a sign of international friendship between the French and the Americans. It was placed here to welcome all the immigrants from abroad. The immigrants would be riding steamships. They would be passing through the Narrows. The bridge you see up ahead, that is the gateway to New York City from the Atlantic. The first significant man-made structure they'll see, the immigrants will see, will be the Statue of Liberty. Tears will run down their cheeks there as they are overwhelmed with emotions. Lady Liberty welcoming them to the new world. The lady is 153 feet tall, designed by a Frenchman. His name was Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. It is said that he designed the face of Lady Liberty according to the facial features of his mother. The statue is made of copper. Originally, when it stood here the first 20 years, it was color brown, dark brown, the color of copper. But copper, when left to the elements, the sun, the seawater, rain, snow, will turn copper green because of the oxidation process. And so it was really Mother Nature who painted Lady Liberty that color, patina green. The outer copper shell is thin, easily bent. It is an it is a copper curtain, flexible. So there needed to be an internal structure built to keep the statue standing, an internal structure that allows people to go up to the crown, even to the torch. And that internal structure was built by another Frenchman. His name was Gustave Eiffel of the Eiffel Tower fame. So here in New York City, we could say we also have an Eiffel Tower inside Lady Liberty. The lady is holding a torch signifying light. Her full name is Liberty Enlightening the World. She's wearing a crown with 7 points signifying the 7 seas, the 7 continents of the world. In the 1883 poem of Emma Lazarus, and Entitled The New Colossus, she refers to Lady Liberty as the mother of exiles who with silent lips cries out, "Bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." The lady is holding the Declaration of Independence on her left hand, inscribed July 4, 1776. And for more than 130 years, she has been a source of hope and inspiration, symbol of freedom and democracy, the embodiment of the American dream. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy her presence, Lady Liberty. We'll make a quick turn, and the people here at the other side would be able to take pictures as well. Enjoy.
Tam yeri.